Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Modern Agent Blueprint. Last week, we did a mastermind on if I was to start over in real estate, what I would do again. Now, or what I would do instead, or again, or what I would do differently. So, what we have decided to talk about was the last one we talked, it was kind of like, here are all the things that we know we need to do and the things that we want to keep doing. And then we also were talking about the things that we wish we would have done differently. So for new agents, this is great. But if you guys need, I think Angie, you've been a realtor for a long time. Nikki and Kelly have been a realtor for a long time. Kelly, I want to see your face. Get back on here. I saw it for a minute. Caroline, I don't know how long you've been in real estate. I know you said you can't get your camera to work, but if there's anything that you guys want to pop in on and say something about or join in, please do. Nikki, you couldn't be here last week, so I'm gonna happy to have you join us today. 8 months now, perfect. So this is great. So you're just starting out, Caroline. So this is a great one for you to be a part of. So one thing that Angie was just talking about before we started recording, and this I think is something that's really, really important in the real estate industry, is we have to remember that this is a very emotional transaction for a lot of people. So we have to be the voice of reason. We have to be the one that understands this is not our deal. This is not our transaction. This is not our money. This is not anything to do with us. We are we are helping them get from one side of the deal to the other. So when you remove those emotions from the transaction, it really helps to carry the whole transaction forward. Because if you have a hothead realtor on the other side and you're getting all flustered and you're getting all frustrated, we're getting nowhere. We're just going to be spinning our wheels in the mud. But if we can keep the calm and cool, and whether it's with another realtor or an unreasonable client or whatever the situation, if it's a frustrating situation or you're, oh my gosh, you just went into this inspection and there's all of these things wrong. And, it's just a lot of frustration and, your emotions are running high. I think the best and one of the things I learned straight off the bat in the beginning, I shouldn't say in the beginning, it took me a few times to realize I gotta remove my emotion from this transaction. And the minute you can step back and say, okay, I'm going to give you 3 options. Here's your choices. You can do this, and this is what will happen if you do this. Here's your repercussions if you do it that way. You could do this. Here's what will happen if you go the other way, or if you do this. And here's number 3. Which would you like to choose? So you give them their options, you give them the potential scenarios at the end, and then let your clients be the ones to make the decisions, right? At the end of the day, it's their money and their transaction anyways. So we want to make sure that we're giving them the best versions of us, right? Like, Nikki, do you have anything to say on that? Nope. All right. So she's like, nope, you're good. So I'm going to go through a few of the things that we talked about last week. And then of course, you guys, if you want to watch the YouTube video, the one from last week will be up on YouTube. Here's a quick run through of the things we talked about last time. Building a strong personal brand sooner, taking lead generation more seriously, treated our business like a business and not a side hustle, regardless of whether you're doing this on the side or not, invested in coaching or mentorship, focused on building a database, not just closing deals, and then this is where we're going to go to today. So one thing that I think is super important is, and this kind of goes a little bit with brand, but I wish that most agents or more agents would understand that they need to learn how to market themselves online. So, most people, excuse me, are searching. There's Kelly's face. Most people, if not all people, are searching you on social media before they even reach out. So you have to treat your social media and your social media presence as your resume. So if you think about, most people, let's say people say this to me all the time, but I'm going to use Nikki as an example. Let's say I send Nikki a deal. I tell this agent, hey, I know a great agent in Ohio, or I tell a client, hey, I have a great agent in Ohio. She's, check her out. She's great. The first thing they're going to do is Google her. They're going to look at what her reviews are. They're going to look at her social media. They're going to look at maybe her LinkedIn. They're going to look at her Zillow reviews. They're going to look at her first, probably even before picking up a phone. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but we have to assume that at some point, whether it's right off the bat or once they've talked to you, they're going to look you up, right? So when you have a strong social media presence, you have strong marketing online, you are going to have a much bigger presence. And if you are consistent with it, I mean, the last thing, like if I referred Nikki a deal and they Google her and they look at her Facebook and she hasn't posted anything since last September, are they going to think she's even in business? Are they going to think that she's actively working? No, they're going to be like, oh, this girl probably sells 3 houses a year. Meanwhile, she's selling 50 or 60 houses. But if she's not posting about it, there's no social proof. And that's what we're looking for right now, is social proof. Do you have anything, Nikki?
No, I mean, I know that when I'm looking at people's social media, if it's not updated, I think that they're not doing it anymore.
Right. Or if you're, only posting, the static graphics and charts and boring stuff, nobody cares. And nobody
Right.
thinks, again, maybe you're not selling houses. Now, I know a lot of people set that stuff up just to have active stuff popping up. But if it's not relevant to the consumer, they're not going to care about any of that. They want to see the stories, the relationships. They want to see
Yeah, they
you.
want to, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Next up is setting boundaries. So I think we all well, I'm not going to say we all. I suck at this. I am really bad about setting boundaries. But I also work a lot and, my kids are older, so I don't necessarily have to have strict boundaries. Like if I had little kids or, kids who needed constant attention or something like that. So it's a little bit different for me, but I think one thing that people need to think about is, what hours do you want to work? I mean, as realtors, I'm working from 8:30 in the morning until midnight, typically. I mean, I accidentally texted a lender last night at 11:53. I was trying to schedule it. In all fairness, I was trying to schedule it and I accidentally sent it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Then I texted him 3 times in a row. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to send that right now. I meant to schedule that for tomorrow morning. So he didn't reply till this morning. But I was like, oh, shoot, I can't believe I did that. But
I would have killed you.
I know. Well, hopefully his phone was on Do Not Disturb.
Mine goes to do not disturb because it's about boundaries.
Yeah. So I have a interest. I'm the boundary queen after, I don't know, after many years in this business. I'm not sounding like that old biddy, but like I also have, a son with special needs. I'm a type 1 diabetic, but I've learned to, yes, I have to, make some money, but like you have to have the boundaries or you're gonna really burn out in this industry. Like, and they have to be healthy. And I set expectations up front with my clients. Like, listen, most of the clients I sell to have families of their own. They get it. Like, listen, I pick up my son from like 4 to, at 4 o'clock. Texting me is fine. Like, that's fine. But, unless it's something that is like absolutely we need to get done because closing's happening. I'll pick up the phone for sure. But like between the hours of like, honestly, unless I'm showing houses, which is fine, I can show houses, but like, and I might be with clients, the hours of like 4 to like 6, like I might not get back to you right away. And that's okay. But I will definitely answer your questions. You'll always get me. I will, text message, a snap, but sometimes I have to put my phone down and be present with either my other clients that I have or my family. And they're totally, as long as you set that expectation, I think that they're fine. And if they don't have, honestly, here's what I've learned in this industry to like, yes, we all have to make money, we want to hustle, but like if they're not okay with that, that's not your client. It's not going to be with your commission at the end of the day, honestly. So you really have to set those expectations up for the longevity of your career and your business and for you not to burn out because we all know like as a realtor, unless you don't have these parameters, the systems you guys teach and talk about all the time, the boundaries are just as important, because you're going to burn out real fucking fast, and you're going to spend a lot of money on therapy, or you're
Or
going to
both.
or alcohol, or
Yeah.
both. Hello, both.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's the thing. Like, and we all preach it too. And I know, Nicole, I see how you work sometimes. I'm like, girl, you gotta have your boundaries, and make sure you're putting, yourself, as far as healthy, taking care of self-care. Self-care could be easy as just zoning out on some Netflix for a minute, or watching a show that makes you laugh that you're used to.
Mhm.
But we have to really put those boundaries in place. But like I said, people are like, oh, I gotta hustle and make money. But at the end of the day, is it really worth your commission when you're just like, it's a complete asshole client? Now, some of these clients are assholes in disguise. You don't realize it until you're in the thick of it with them. But, but if you still have to set those boundaries, and that's
Yeah.
going to make for a happy person. Even your client, again, they respect that. They will have to respect that. That's okay.
Well, I think with like what you said, I mean, as a realtor, I feel like you always have to feel, sorry, I'm like trying to scope out who's on the stretcher across the street here. My neighbors are like somebody, I can't tell. Anyways, sorry, nosy neighbor over here. So, I think we're always on. Oh, nobody's on it. So that's good. Okay. We're all always on, right?
Yeah.
So like, you have to be present. You got to be doing all these things. You got to be doing this. You got to be doing that. Like, I mean, how many times are you thinking like this? And I'll just say me, I'm going to use me as an example. I feel guilty when I take 20 minutes to watch a show or a movie or something, because I'm like, well, I should be doing this. And oh my gosh, I didn't do that. And I forgot to email that person. And I should be doing a social media post. I haven't posted a reel in a couple days. And gosh, I haven't done this and I haven't done that. And when your brain is constantly firing like that, this is when you get that burnout. This is when you get that, like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe, like, I
just
am
had a
working
therapy
on.
session about this with my therapist. That's also a trauma response.
Hmm,
Yes.
well, makes
Paid
sense.
paid $4,000 to figure that one out.
Ha. But I think
don't know.
if you, like Kelly said, if you're setting expectations, maybe you're setting work hours, maybe you say, I don't work on Sundays, but I'm going to make sure that I get you in on Saturday if there's ever a house you want to see. I mean, I always tell my clients, like, you're going to hear back from me. If I haven't responded to you in an hour, just send me another text. I might have read it when I was, driving, or didn't have a second to reply. Maybe I was with a client. You're always going to hear back from me. But I do give them the expectation, like, if I'm out of town, there's always going to be somebody else who's going to be able to help you. Like, you could feel free to text me if you need to, but you're going to have somebody who's going to be holding your hand while I'm gone. But I do think, there's some realtors who say they don't work Sundays, or they don't work after 7 o'clock, and they don't do this, they don't do that. I think it's important to have boundaries, but on the other side of that, if you are not going to be available certain days, I think you just need to make sure you have a go-to person that you can, send out for showings, excuse me, or whatnot, because you don't also want to lose your client because maybe your boundaries are too strict. So I would just, find a balance that works for you, works for your family. Nikki, do you set any specific boundaries with your clients? I know you do not
Yes.
disturb.
Well, yes, I learned that quickly. And I also learned that if you respond, like, I try not to be on my phone for work after like 8 p.m. because if you start responding to them, they're going to think it's okay to always communicate with you till whenever and have no boundaries. And I'm a people pleaser, so I'm going to answer them, or I used to. And then I'm like, nope, this can wait till tomorrow. Like, and I think what ended up happening is I was rushing to, get this offer in and make this deal happen. And then the agent on the other side was like, okay, I'll look at it tomorrow. Or it was like not an urgent thing to them. And I got so irritated that I'm like, well, what the hell did I just, bust ass and move everything around and do all of this for it not to matter to you?
Yeah. And miss your kid's bedtime and, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
agree.
no. So I started doing that. And then I also realized I'm like, as much as I want to be honest with my clients about what I'm actually doing, like, hey, I'm picking up my kid at 3 p.m. You know, I won't be back till 4. No, I tell them nothing. I say, I'm unavailable. I apologize. I'm unavailable. However, you know, are you available between this time and this time? And it's fine. As soon as they know
like,
that.
if I guess that could be a funny situation where you're like, well, if you're not available, if that's like the ask client, oh, you're not available. Well, are you available between 2 and 3 a.m.?
Right.
Would you like, I can call you then.
Mhm.
Would you respond to me?
Right. Or 5:30 in the morning when I'm up, like,
and you're not, because
right.
you know,
They don't, I mean, they want to be, oh, they care that you're, you know, family oriented. They don't care. They care about themselves. And if
You're
your
right.
family is getting in the way of whatever they need when they need it at that exact moment, then they're going to move on to somebody else. So I just don't tell them those things. And
Well, and I was gonna say too, so when I worked both in the dental field and in real estate, as many new agents do, you are trying to balance two different careers potentially. And one thing I kind of learned sort of the hard way about verbiage and how you present things. One, I never told anybody I had another job. I did it one time and I'll tell you that story, but I never said that I had another job. So I would always just say, I'm sorry, I'm in an appointment at that time. Could you do this time? Or I'm sorry, I'm not available until 5:30 that day. Does that work for you? Usually there's no problem. Most people are looking at houses after work anyway. So 9 times out of 10, you don't even have to worry about that. But same thing. I mean, I don't really tell people that I'm out with other clients or anything like that unless I'm kind of established with them. Because let's be real, most clients want to believe that they're your top priority. You are the number one, you know, they're the number one to you, and there's no way that you're doing anything else other than working for them. So you do have to be a little bit cautious about the verbiage you use. So I might say, hey, you know, I'm going to be in an appointment at that time. That appointment might be getting my nails done.
they don't need to know that though.
Right. That appointment might be my gym, you know, going to the gym. That appointment might be me picking my son up for school or making dinner or whatever. So you don't have to necessarily give all the details. The one time I did, so I was on a showing and I had left the dentist's office to go to the showing. And I said something about my, you know, my dental job. I just mentioned something. They're like, oh, you have another job?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I just work there a few hours a week, you know, just because I did it for so long. And they're like, oh. And then I was just like, you know, I'm never going to say that again. I'm never going to tell anybody I had another job, because one, they don't need to know. They don't care. They don't care at all. And if you're, you know, just saying you have meetings that day or you have an appointment that day already at that certain time, they don't necessarily need to know. The other thing I would say is, pro tip. So with, let's say, now that Zillow and these like third-party sites show you what times are available for showings, I have had people who have said, oh, I saw, like when I've said, oh, I'm not available at that time, they're like, oh, well, it shows on Zillow that, or no, I said the showing is not available at that time. The house isn't available at that time. And they're like, oh, Zillow says it is. I'm like, you can't, it's inaccurate. You can't always trust that, you know? So you have to just be cautious a little bit, because now there's like all of this opportunity for people to look up some of that stuff themselves. But I think, going back to setting boundaries, I think just being cautious about the verbiage you're using. You know, if you're setting certain boundaries, I think it's important to do so and you know, set that expectation. I mean, I have a client who she will text me at 11:30 at night. And my problem is I'm up, so sometimes I reply to her. So and if I don't reply and I reply in the morning, it's not a big deal. But if I'm up and I'm doing something, I might reply to her. I have definitely left people sit until the next day, because I have been let sit until the next day. It's not always that big of a deal. But again, we're in real estate. Pretty much none of this is a 911 issue. Nobody's going to bleed out. Like,
right. That's
we'll be all
exactly.
right.
Yeah. No one's doing brain surgery here. We're fine.
We're
I
not
mean,
bleeding out on the floor.
no.
We're all good. It's just the
Right.
house. Like, we'll
Yep.
get you there. Don't worry.
Yep.
So here's a hard one. Get comfortable with rejection. We'll start there because there's another part of this, but you have to get used to rejection. It's the hardest part of this job, I think.
I agree.
Feeling like you are doing your best. You're bending over backwards. You're writing offers. You're trying to be as strategic as possible. You're getting out to these showings. You're driving an hour to go show these people a house. And then they say, you know what? I think we just want to go a different direction. And you're like, what? Like, are you kidding me? I've invested all this time and effort. And as you know, we are not paid an hourly rate. So you just wasted 20 hours of my life that I can't get back, nor am I compensated for, because you don't feel like I'm doing a good enough job for you, when maybe it's because you're not agreeing to write the offers that I'm suggesting, or maybe X, Y, and Z. Maybe we really are not a good fit, but you still don't necessarily want to lose out on that time and effort. But you have to get comfortable with understanding that you are not going to be the right fit for every single person, just like every single person is not going to be the right fit for you. And it is very hard to feel like you knocked a listing out of the park and to find out that they went with another agent, or to find out that your friend on Facebook just bought a house with another realtor. That is like just heartbroken. And I want to know, how do you ladies handle situations like that? Like, what is your way of handling that? Do you, let's just say, let's give a scenario. Like, what if a buyer says they don't want to work with you anymore? What is your, I'm gonna start with Nikki.
I just had one. So I showed this girl a lot of houses probably a year and a half ago. And then I don't remember, something came up and she ended up not buying, some family stuff. So then she reached out to me earlier this year and she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna start my search up again." So when I met with her, I felt like it was a little odd because her search of where she was looking was like not, she's like either Sylvania or Oregon. Now that is like a 30 to 45-minute difference. They're on two opposite ends. So I was like, okay, why both of these? So her family's from Sylvania, her boyfriend and his family live in Oregon. I was like, okay. So she didn't really, like, I got a gist that she didn't really know what she wanted. So we probably saw maybe 5 houses. And then she emails me and she was like, "So I'm going to terminate our agreement. Thanks for all of your help, but I have a friend that's an agent now, and she's not as expensive, so I'm gonna go with her. Thanks." And I was pissed initially. I was like, "What the hell? First of all, how are they
But
cheaper? You're not paying me anything, like
right.
at least not right now."
But with our new buyer agreements, don't they owe you some money?
Well, no. I mean, you can terminate the agreement at any
I
time.
know, right. True.
So
But
that's what she was doing.
yeah, okay.
And I'm like, okay, let's think about this. So I called one of my friends and I bitched for a good 5-10 minutes just to get it out. And then I'm like, however, in reality, I don't really know if she's actually ever going to end up buying, because she's all over the place, no matter how much you try to reel her in, and she seems extremely indecisive. So, I just said to her, I was like, well, if I knew that finances were an issue, we could have always further discussed other options. But you didn't come to me. So best of luck. Bye.
Mhm.
And find somebody else that isn't going to waste your time. So it sucks, so you vent a little and then you got to move on, because if you just keep sulking in it, that's not going to bring any new clients to you.
Well, and I think, so one thing that I try to do if I'm ever fired is ask, what did I do? Or, what was it that happened that brought us to this situation? Like, I would just like to know for future reference. Like, I had a listing They tried to sell it for sale by owner for 40 days, didn't sell. They decided, okay, we need a realtor. They brought me in. I helped them buy their house right before this. I listed it. Had it staged, did professional photos, video, all that stuff, had it listed. They wanted to list it. I told them a number. I'm going to have to just tell you the number, but I told them I wanted to list it at I said 575 to 600 would be the max, depending on finishes they did with the updates that they were going to do. They listed it FSBO 729. And I was like, holy cow. So when I got the listing, I got them down, but they wouldn't come down to where I wanted them to. They wanted to go at like 670. And I was like, ooh, so every single showing said it was overpriced, 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 overpriced. And I kept telling them, hey guys, I really think we need to lower the price. No, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. And I said, guys, I really think we need to be sub 600. Like, I really think that's where we need to be. Nope, we're not doing it. That's not enough money. Given the one of the sellers had said multiple times, I just want to get 600 out of this house. And I'm like, then we gotta be sub 600. So anyway, they ended up emailing me one day and they just said, we've decided we're going to go a different direction. We'd like to cancel our contract. And I was like, okay, like I didn't even argue with them. I just said, okay, like we have 3 showings this weekend. Let's get through these showings. And then from there, we can go ahead and take the house off the market. I didn't even fight back on it, because I feel like they were just being unreasonable at that point. So then they ended up listing it with a new agent at 599. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, after all the work I put into this and marketing it and running ads and doing all the stuff, paying for the photography, paying for all the stuff, then you go and list it with somebody else for literally the price that I told you.
It's crazy because it's just like, even with buyers on the other side, you have to still take them through the paces before they understand and get to that pain point to realize like you've been right all along, this and that. And then some people don't want to admit that you were right. And so that's maybe why they went with another, because like agent, because I'm sure, I know the kind of agent you are, Nicole, but I'm sure you told them all the things, you did all the things right, obviously. And they're almost embarrassed to the point where they like, we're just going to listen with somebody else because, she was right, we were wrong. Some people's egos get in the way, but also just like on the buyer side, you have to take them through the paces sometimes. Like, you're going to have to go over asking on this house to like a certain number. And they just, by the time they miss out on that fifth one, then they're finally like, ugh, okay, and I've had multiple buyers like that where I'm like, listen, this is what it's probably going to take, but you have to take them to the paces, unfortunately. And that's kind of it is on the selling side, but they decided like their ego is more important. And they finally were like, oh, yeah, no, you were right. But
yeah. And I mean, where I ended up selling that house? 589.
Like you said,
I told them 575 is where I would list it. So they
okay,
probably
so let me all
right.
give you the name of my therapist, because we're all going to meet it. She's wonderful.
I mean, you're right though. I mean, Kelly, I know you and I have talked about, our clients that fired you after a bunch of work too. And,
oh God,
very
it's
discouraging.
painful.
Yeah. We've all lost clients along the way, and it sucks, but you just have to understand, like, this is why we don't count our commission check before we get it in the bank, because you never know what's going to happen between point A and point B. This is why you have to remember to kind of keep some of your emotions out of it. Yes, it's really, really frustrating and really, really upsetting. But let me tell you what, those people didn't respect you. They didn't want to listen to you. They didn't respect you. They didn't believe you. They didn't trust you.
Yep.
And those are the clients you don't want to work with anyways.
My last one, I think you and I went over this, but like, what I also, don't take it personally, because it's them. A lot of times it's them. I mean, I know Nikki, Nicole on this call, like us, we do all the things right. We like do great things for our clients. So this particular one, I won't go to all the details, but they were basically like, they couldn't tell me the reason why, except for they're very controlled by her parents. Her parents have like big dick California money and came into Michigan, bought them a house. And they were just living in this house for a little while, but now they want to sell the house, and the daughter and son-in-law want to buy a house. So I showed them, we've even like lost out on, like two offers, which in my area is super competitive and that's normal. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we're gonna go with, the lady that listed our parents' house that they're living in currently, she's gonna find us, there was that one time you showed up late for for a showing, and I was like, and I called you and said, I'm on my way, I'll be a few minutes late. Okay. And then, but we're going to refer you to our friends and stuff, and I'm like, so you're saying you can't work with me, but you're going to refer me to your friends. So basically you're a pussy and and can't
Kelly, the
tell your
language.
mother-in-law, you can't tell your mother and mother-in-law that she's super controlling person too, their mother-in-law. I met her, we went on inspection, and I'm like, so you basically can't,
They
you
just
can't
stand up to her.
you can't stand up to her, and I've been doing a great job for you guys. I know the area well, and she wants to use the realtor that listed their house, which she's like I said, I'm sure you know the name if I say it, Nicole, who I lost
We don't
it
need
to.
to say it. Don't say it. We're recorded here.
Yes. So anyway, I'm like, oh, so basically you don't have but we're going to refer you to our friends and like this and that. We don't want to have any hard feelings when we see you out and about. I'm like, okay. But I'm like, that wasn't me. Like, I know I did great for them. So a lot of times you got to look back, but also great time to take it as a learning, that one, I don't know how I could have learned from that, honestly. But I think there's other instances where, you know what, you got to look at yourself and be like, how can I improve this? And then Nicole made a good point of like, okay, so if you're not working with me, can you please tell me so I can improve myself? Like, are there anything I could have done differently, in a constructive way, constructive criticism way? Like I want to always improve my business. So that would be very helpful to me, so.
I did that. I just lost a listing that I thought I knocked out of the park. I think we even talked about it on one of these masterminds. I was like, I freaking nailed it like that. I'm going to totally get that listing. And then then it's crickets on their end, and I'm like, what's going on? Hey guys, how's it going? They're like, I said, did you end up deciding on anything? I know we're getting close to the time you wanted to list. And they're like, oh yeah, we went this other realtor because they sold in this neighborhood before. And we just wanted to go with them. And I was like, oh, and then literally the next day the house went on the market. So I'm glad that I asked, because I would have been even more heartbroken had I seen it listed with somebody else. But, I think one, you're going to get ghosted. The rejection is also ghosting. I showed some clients multiple houses. I think we only wrote one offer because the husband and wife they could never be on the same page. We wrote one offer, didn't get it. And then the holidays happened and then they just fizzled out, never heard from them again. And, they still look at my search. They still are liking stuff, but I haven't talked to them since December. And it's April. So I'm about to just turn their search off, but I keep trying. I keep sending them messages. Hey, hope you guys are doing well. Haven't heard from you a while, just touching base, whatever. But I think you have to understand that this job, you're going to get rejected. You're going to get offers rejected. You're going to get rejected from buyers. You're going to get rejected from sellers. It's just part of the game. And you just have to understand that, not everything is going to be a slam dunk, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I do think that asking what you could have done better is going to help you improve. And I would also say, think about the things I had a client who, one of the reasons why they claimed they fired me was because I didn't bring MLS sheets to their showing. I had it on my phone, but I didn't bring the sheets and the disclosures with me. And here's the funny part. I went to the appointment. The MLS system was down. And I said, I'm so sorry that I was trying to print the stuff off before I left. The MLS system was down. As soon as I get back home, I'm going to double check. They should be back up by then. But if you have any questions, I could try to reach out to the agent or anything like that beforehand. The mom was there, and I swear to you, 5 times she said, we really need to see these disclosures. We really need to see them. So I ended up finally got them. I pulled it up on my phone. I said, oh, what, system's back up. I got them on my phone here. There's really not anything helpful on here. There's no dates. They didn't put any information on here about, mechanical dates or anything like that, unfortunately. So when I get back home, I will email these over to you so you can see them all. The mom, I swear to you, 4 more times said, it just really would have been helpful to have these disclosures. We could have seen this stuff. And I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, but there's no dates on here. There is nothing that is helpful on these disclosures for you right now. But anyway, they ended up firing me and going with another agent. Fine, whatever. You were a pain in the butt anyways. But it's just stuff like that. You have to kind of take it as the universe intervening and saying, you know what, these people are not for you.
Yeah. Well, and it comes back to the boundaries thing
Yeah.
too. I mean, again, it's the same, that's not a boundary, but it's the same thing. Okay, fine. You would have been such a headache to me if just not having disclosures was the problem. Like, I don't even know if that would have been worth my commission at this point. Like
Yeah. What's
being,
going to happen after inspection?
yeah.
Well, and I think, you're also going to have those people. I showed a guy literally 60 houses. And then he was like, oh, I think I might get a job transfer. So I'm not going to buy a house. And then I saw him in the McDonald's drive-through like a month later. And I was like, you liar.
Oh my God.
Oh, you lied to me. I think he just wanted to hang out with me and all 100%.
Well, I mean,
I'm pretty sure Kelly, you met him. You came to me that showing with me.
Oh my gosh. I remember that.
Yeah.
That was
So,
yeah.
that was when it was a weird internet call, and I am fairly certain.
Yeah, that's why you wanted me to come with you. That's right, which is good. Yeah, I'm glad I did.
Kelly came packing. She came packing just in case. So okay,
never
next
know.
up. So here's one of the biggest things that I see realtors and a lot of entrepreneurs screwing up on is saving money and planning for slow months. This business is such a roller coaster. You can have a $60,000 a month and then close nothing for 3 months, or close one here and there, barely make your credit card payments. So you have to plan, and you have to know that this business is fickle. It changes. Your business is going to change. It's not always going to be. And that's why when people start saying like their goals to close 4 deals a month, like realistically, most agent, you're not going to close 4 a month. You might close 6 one month, 2 another, 1 another, it's going to be all over the place. So yeah, it's great to have those goals, but it's kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, you can't be so rigid in this, you can't be
Right.
super rigid, or you're going to set yourself up for mental and emotional failure.
Yes.
hmm
The other thing, I feel like there's a lot of agents who get their license. I think we kind of talked about this last week. People get their license and they think business is just going to fall in their lap. And it does happen occasionally. I have a new agent, literally got her license, and within the first 2 weeks, she had a listing and a buyer. And I was just like, okay, well, carry on, keep doing what you're doing. But for the most part, I mean, it took me personally 6 months to close my first deal. I was working with people, I was showing houses, but I didn't actually close anything for 6 months. And if you think about that, if I was a full-time realtor, had no other income, that's 6 months of living expenses that you have to consider. So you really have to plan on not making any money. And, your commissions can vary. You might be making $1,000 on a vacant land, or you might be making $40,000 if you get $1 million deal, like Angie over here doing a $2 million deal. You might have a huge commission check come in, but then who knows where the next one is? Unfortunately, in this business, we're unemployed after that last house closes.
Yep.
We are constantly having to, and that puts a lot of pressure on us. And I think that's where the burnout can come from too. It's a lot of pressure to always be on and always be lead generating, getting business, doing things that bring more business in. So I think it's really important that we are kind of gentle on ourselves. It's kind of leading into the next part of this, but does anybody have anything else about saving money or planning for those slower months?
Well, I mean, yes. Well, not only that, but like, I mean, I've had multiple like deaths and sicknesses in my family in the last year. So like, I don't get bereavement time. I had to handle my mom's death and everything that went along with that. And I don't get that time, So again, I'm not saying hopefully in everyone's lives deaths aren't coming, like one or another, but also sick time. I mean, especially in the winter when things are slower in real estate and you might get a super bad flu or sickness. Like you have to be able to allot for that time. Not that you can't. A lot of things we can take care of over the phone. We don't have to like go out, but like sometimes your brain doesn't work. when you have like a flu or COVID or something like that. Like, so we do have to plan for the what ifs, or if you have children and they're sick and they just want mom to snuggle them and be with them. And, you kind of, it's not that you want to miss business, but if you do plan for the rainy days like that, it is nice that you don't have to stress about it, and then you can be present with your family and with your kids when they need you the most, so
Well,
yep.
that and like you kind of have to plan for the unexpected,
Yeah.
right? So like you need to have an emergency fund. What if you trip and break your ankle
Yeah.
and you can't drive? What are you going to
Yeah.
do? How are you going to get
You're
to
getting
show?
a snowboarding accident.
Right, break your tailbone. What are you going to do? So there's a lot of things that can happen that can throw you off. And there was some stat, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like most Americans are like $1,500 away from
They're
utter
one
like
paycheck. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Just
there's nothing. They have no means to, if somebody gets laid off or somebody gets hurt, they have $1,500 saved and that's it. And if that's gone, that's literally like one house payment and you're done. You have nothing else, or less and more than that even. So you have to make sure that we're um taking the time to consider all of the, financial stuff that goes into it, meeting with a financial advisor if need be, having them set you up for success. Maybe that means depositing so much money per month into a emergency fund or into a IRA or into something that you can then pull money out if times get tough. Um, it's one thing that I really liked about our brokerage is that we have the stock coming in. So if I need to, I have the option to go and take money out of my stock portfolio that I can use if something were to happen. So it's just something I want you guys to think about as well. Nikki, did you or Brooke anything on that?
No, I do agree with the stock thing because that's like we have that program where it takes that amount out of your paycheck. So it's
Mm.
like a savings account. Like I don't even know I have. Like every closing, a couple $100 is put into a savings account and then I just forget about it.
Yeah. And that's one thing that a lot of financial people suggest if you can split your check up and put a portion of it going right away. I know with a lot of our brokerages and stuff, we can't necessarily say, I want 80% to go to this bank account and 20% to go to this one, but
Right.
you can do it on your own and just start moving money into an account that you can't get to. If you read Profit First, it talks all about how to kind of manage your money and how literally you have money for all these different categories and your checks are divvied up based on what needs to go where. And you have an account that is for savings, only for savings. You cannot make withdrawals on it online. You can't, or at an ATM, you can't do anything like that. It's one of those bank accounts that you actually have to go in to the bank. You have to drive across town to get to it. You got to go in the bank to make your withdrawal. So it makes it a lot more difficult to get to that money than just clicking a button on the website. So I highly suggest for realtors to speak to a financial advisor. Most of the time they're going to talk to you for free. They're going to help navigate some stuff for you. And then once you start moving your money over there, they're going to help a lot. I actually just met with a financial advisor the other day who explained to me, like, think about this. We're realtors, like, we know our business. We don't know necessarily all these other businesses. And he basically was telling me, like, you don't want to use these big name, like Merrill Lynch and Fidelity and a lot of these bigger companies because to handle all your money because they charge more because they're these national companies. And it's, to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like us telling our buyers not to use the big name banks in these processes because they charge bigger fees. They're running ads on the Super Bowl, whereas like a smaller mom and pop place, they're not going to charge those type of fees. So it's just something to consider if you haven't already done that. I also recommend that you save at least 25 to 30% of every commission check for your taxes. Because I'll tell you what, when that tax bill comes, you need to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. The other thing that I had no idea about when I first started was that you're supposed to pay quarterly taxes. I had No clue. Nobody ever told me that you need to do quarterly taxes. So the first year I didn't really do enough that it, like, she didn't say anything to me about it. And then the second year I did do enough business where she was like, well, did you pay your quarterlies? And I was like, my CPA lady, and I was like, what's a quarterly? And she was like, you're supposed to be paying your taxes quarterly. And I was like, well, nobody told me. Like, how am I supposed to know? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And they're like, well, you have to pay your estimated taxes. I'm like, how do I estimate my taxes? You know, like, there's a lot of stuff that, one, we should have learned when we were in high school, honestly, or at least college. But yeah, I had no idea. I had no clue that you had to do all this. So, make sure that you are planning, make sure that you are taking every single check that hits my bank account. I go in, I do my multiplication, take my 30%, put it in another account, and it just sits there. So then I know that when it's time for me to pay my quarterlies or it's time for me to do my taxes at the end of the year, I have everything I need. This is one that I think we can all appreciate, is I wish more agents, or I wish some of this stuff, it can go both ways, but I wish people would stop comparing themselves to others. I think that's a really hard one, because there are agents out there who are doing a lot of different things than what you're doing. It doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong or what you're doing is bad. It just means that you're doing something different than what they're doing. And you can take ideas and you can take, you know, inspiration from these other people, but you never know what's going on. And imposter syndrome is real. I mean, half the time I'm like, why are people even asking me these things? Like, I don't know. Like, why are you talking to me? I don't, like, I'm not the one. But you need to focus on keeping your head in the game and your game. Your competition is you. There's enough houses in this state you're in the county, in the world. We don't need to worry about one agent who's getting all of the houses. We need to focus on making sure we're doing a good job in order to be able to stay consistent. And we have to really try to not compare ourselves. And there's a lot of people out there who are doing these elaborate open houses with gifts and these crazy, I mean, they're going out and spending tons of money. I mean, it works for them because it's a return. They're seeing a return from it. I can tell you, I want to do these cutesy little things for open houses, but I'll tell you what, I'll get like 2 or 3 people who might take them. I feel like I waste more money doing those like cutesy little things than if I were to reinvest that money in something else. So do I think having, like, you know, a cute little, like, I did like these Valentine's things. I went to the dollar store. I got all these little Valentine's buckets with all these little things in there. I had one person take it. So now I have, oh, I gave one to my client because they have a daughter. So 2 out of the 10 that I made. So now I have a whole box of these things in my closet that I have to try to remember to use next year. But I got to throw all the candy out of there and put all the new candy in. So you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's a trade-off. So you have to kind of see what works for you. What is it? What's the reputation that you want for your business? Don't get caught up in what everybody else is doing, because that's just going to cause like this inferiority thing where you're just like, oh my God, like, I'm not as good as her. Like, Nikki, you sell way more houses than I do, like way more houses, but I can't look at you and be like, oh my God, I'm not like Nikki at all. Like, I'll never do as much as Nikki. Like, I just can't.
It's just different. Yeah. Our markets are different. And I mean, I would rather sell less houses and make more money.
Right.
You know, it just, you know, it is what it is. But I did want to tell you, so I found a way. I was doing an open house and had like the little gift bags and random stuff. So it was for Valentine's Day. And then I had one for like Memorial Weekend. And my way around getting people not to take them is literally when they came in, I handed them the bag and said, there's additional information regarding this property in here for you. If you have any questions, let me know. And then they're like, oh, okay. So I just put like the MLS sheet in there, whatever else. but had all the other stuff in there, my business
smart.
card. And they were like, oh, thanks. This is great. Now, previous to that, when I wasn't doing that, yeah, they'd let it sit there. They're like, I don't know if they don't know if they should take it or what, but even when there's food and stuff, they're like, I don't know if I want that. They're just weird about it. So
Yeah.
I just handed it to them and was like, hey, there's info in here about this house. If you have questions, let me know.
Well, so one thing I will say too, just going on that, is I used to put cookies just on a tray and
Mhm.
nobody took them.
Yep.
And I think it was also coming off of COVID that people were like, oh, I don't want to, like, this is like open food. So I buy cookies at Costco. I bought little individual bags on Amazon, and I just put the cookies in the bag, tape them up with a little thank you sticker. More people take those than they did the open trays. So I
Okay.
think that's another way around it. But, I think people, my thing is, some people are like, oh, we don't need that, save that for somebody else. So I like the idea of sticking your information in there and saying, hey, this is for you. I want you to take this because you have all this stuff in there. I mean, I've done the little paint can with all the stuff, taking it to the listing appointment. I've had more people say they don't want it than they do. Like, some people have been like, oh, I don't need that. Like, thank you. Like, I don't need all this stuff. Like, I'm trying to get rid of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. Like, if you're not interested, I'll give it to somebody else. No big deal.
Right.
But then it's kind of awkward because you're like, oh, I brought this paint can for you with full of
Mhm.
like all the little pre-listing stuff. But, I'd rather them say I don't want it and me be able to use it for somebody else and then just chuck it in the trash and waste all my money. So
Yeah.
again, that will go back to like marketing dollars and where you're spending your money. And are you going to see a return on it? Is it going to be, part of your client experience or whatever it might be? You just have to kind of figure out what's going to be best for you and your business, and then decide what all you want to do. Anything about comparing yourself to others or anything as we wrap this up? The other thing I want to say is we also have to keep in mind, a lot of times what you see online isn't always as it seems. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, guys. So, there's people who claim to be in business for 10 years, but really their license wasn't holding for 8 of it. Or they say that they sell all of these, $1 million houses when really it's their team that's selling that much, that many houses. A lot of people, I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I was faking it until I made it. I was driving in my car, taking pictures, going to show these houses when really I was just going to Target, or I was going to pick my son up from school, or whatever it was. You don't necessarily have to always believe everything you see. But I do think there is something to say about showing up, being relevant as much as you can, showing up in people's feeds, making sure that you are always in front of them. So whether that is, sending a picture, like Brooke, you do a great job of like posting pictures when you're at the coffee shop working. Nikki, you do that too. I see it all the time. So I think like showing that you are actively doing stuff, showing that you're working for your clients, it's like a subtle like, hey, I'm a realtor, don't forget about me. Without being like, hey, anybody want to buy or sell? This goes back to branding and marketing yourself. Staying front and center, I think, is one of the most important things in this business. Any parting words from anybody about anything else that maybe you would do differently or would continue doing that is seen? Oh, Kelly, she's like a shapeshifter.
I'm going to again, I'm going to an appointment. So I had to like finish getting up.
She's gonna get her toes done. Anyway, is there anything that anybody else has to say about or wants to say about any parting words?
I think you guys did great covering a lot of the, don't compare yourself, don't take it personally. Easier said than done, a lot of these things, but it takes time, when you fall down on the ground and bust your face, you get back up, and the next fall on the ground will be a little easier kind of thing. Yeah.
I think you develop a thick skin,
Mhm.
over time, you start to realize, you start to see patterns in client behavior that you can kind of nip right away and say, oh, I see we're going this way. You know, you start to notice things, and really you start to really value your time and energy a lot more. I mean, I've had clients who wanted to send me all over. They'll send me a house that's an hour north and another 1 hour west and another 1 hour south. And you're just like, hey, let me look at these houses and make sure that they're right for you. Bye, Angie. Thank you. So, you know, let me make sure that these houses are going to work for you. And there's been plenty of times where I'm like, hey guys, this house is an hour away. You said you
Yeah.
didn't want to be more than 45 minutes away. And while it's only 15, let's think about winter months. Let's think about drive time. Let's think about accidents, all this stuff. You know, you kind of find ways to navigate client interactions. And I think the other couple things I was going to say is get in the right rooms. Get in the room with the people who are smarter than you, know more than you, who can help teach you things. Listen to podcasts, read, like reading podcasts, Audible, all of those things. Stay in the know as much as you can. I love Tom Ferry's his podcast. I love Hustle Humbly. I think Hustle Humbly was like my ride or die when I first started. Like I listened to that all the time.
That's a great podcast. It's one of my favorites.
Especially if you're new. I literally went all the way back to the beginning when I found them, and I started listening from the beginning all the way through. You know, you got a 40-minute drive to a showing. You get to, you know, pop on your podcast and listen. Yes, Carolyn, like it's such a good one. Reading books, I think always working on ourselves and improving ourselves a little bit more. I like Ninja Selling. That was a great one. Exactly What to Say, The Gap and the Gain, Who Not How, like all these books were like some of my absolute favorites. They were really good. And I actually will listen to them on Audible. And if I like them enough, I'll actually buy the physical book. So if I ever want to go back and references, I have it. But those are some of my absolute favorites. The Gap and the Gain is a great one just for mindset. Who Not How is written by the same people. And it's about like you don't always have to figure it out on your own. You can find somebody who can help you get to where you need to be. But the other ones are all good. So I think just staying in the business, keep your mind, you know, sharp, make sure you know what's going on, figure out your local market, get involved as much as you possibly can. If you can get involved with your local boards, your local like mom entrepreneur groups, moms in business groups, something like that. If you have a chamber of commerce, get involved with that. Get involved as much as you possibly can. Nikki's on the Women Council of Realtors. I'm on the YPN board. So, you know, if you can get involved, you're going to build relationships with other agents. It's another thing that you can say that you're doing, another thing to show that you're, you know, relevant in this business. So just keep doing all the things. Try to find stuff that you enjoy and that you're passionate about, and make sure you're networking. More Money, Less Hustle. Is that a book?
Yep.
Oh, yep. Sorry. I see it now. Another book. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
There's so many good ones out there. 12-week year. 12-week year is a great one. And that's about breaking your year up into 12-week segments. So then you are more apt to actually achieve your goals, instead of saying like, okay, well, it's April, so I still have May, June, July, August, blah, 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 to reach that goal. But if you only have 12 weeks, you have it's a lot more condensed time frame to actually get some stuff done. All right,
Awesome.
everybody. Well, thank you for joining us today. I really enjoyed this one again. And Nikki and I will be back next week for another Modern Agent Blueprint. And we hope to see you there. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.